Last Tuesday, I visited my great-granddaughter Sarah for her 8th birthday. The house was filled with family, laughter, and of course, a beautiful spread of food. As I reached for a slice of grapefruit from the fruit platter, little Sarah tugged at my sleeve and said, "Grandpa, why are your hands shaking so much? Are you scared of the fruit?" The room fell silent. I chuckled to break the tension, but inside I felt that familiar wave of embarrassment. Later that evening, my daughter pulled me aside and whispered, "Dad, maybe you should be more careful about what you eat. I read something about certain fruits making your tremors worse." The drive home was longer than usual that night. I kept thinking about how many times I'd reached for that same fruit at breakfast, never knowing it might be silently working against me. I wondered how many of you watching right now have felt that same confusion, that same worry about something as simple as your morning fruit bowl. Have you noticed your symptoms getting worse after certain meals, but couldn't quite put your finger on why? I'm Dr. Harold Winters. I've been practicing medicine for over 65 years, and at 91, I still see patients 3 days a week. I've specialized in geriatric nutrition for the last 4 decades, ever since I noticed how dramatically diet affected my older patients, and eventually myself. I've published research in the American Journal of Geriatric Nutrition, advised on the dietary panels of 3 senior living organizations, and most importantly, I've lived through the same challenges you're facing right now. What I'm about to share isn't something you'll hear from many doctors, especially younger ones. They're well-trained and well-meaning, but they haven't lived in our bodies. They haven't experienced how differently food affects us as we age. And unfortunately, most medical schools still teach outdated information about senior nutrition that simply doesn't match what we now know about aging bodies. Let me tell you about Eleanor, an 82-year-old patient of mine. For years, she prided herself on her healthy diet, a grapefruit every morning, a glass of grapefruit juice with her medications, and sometimes grapefruit sections in her afternoon salad. She was doing everything right, following the advice she'd heard all her life about citrus fruits being healthy, but her blood pressure medication never seemed to work properly. She experienced dizziness, confusion, and even fell twice, breaking her wrist the second time. Or take Richard, 79, who suddenly developed severe muscle pain after decades on his cholesterol medication with no issues. His family thought it was just getting older, but Richard knew something had changed. He'd recently started eating more grapefruit because his new girlfriend had a tree in her backyard. And then there's Maria, 86, who experienced such severe drowsiness after her anxiety medication that her children thought she was developing dementia. They were considering moving her to assisted living until we discovered the real culprit, the grapefruit juice she'd been drinking to stay healthy. What do all these stories have in common? Grapefruit. Yes. The seemingly innocent breakfast. Fruit that has been recommended to seniors for decades is, for many of us, the most dangerous fruit we could possibly consume. Now, I know what you're thinking. But Harold, grapefruit is healthy. It's full of vitamin C and antioxidants. My doctor told me to eat more fruit. And you're right. For younger people and some seniors, grapefruit can indeed be beneficial. But here's what most doctors won't tell you, or worse, don't even know themselves. Grapefruit contains compounds called furanocoumarins that dramatically interfere with how our bodies process medications. These compounds destroy an enzyme in your intestines called CYP3A4, which is responsible for metabolizing about 85 different medications commonly prescribed to seniors. Without this enzyme, the medication doesn't get properly broken down, and instead of getting the dose your doctor prescribed, you might be getting 3 times, 5 times, or even 10 times that amount. It's not your fault that no one explained this to you. For decades, the interaction between grapefruit and medication was poorly understood. Even today, many doctors will simply hand you a prescription without asking about your diet or warning you about these life-threatening interactions. And the effects aren't immediate. They can build up slowly, making you think you're just getting older, or that your memory is failing you. The most frightening part. This isn't rare. Studies show that over 40% of seniors take at least one medication that interacts dangerously with grapefruit. That means nearly half of all older adults could be at risk, and most don't even know it. But here's the good news. Once you understand the problem, the solution is surprisingly simple. I've developed a 5-step protocol that has helped hundreds of my patients safely navigate their medications and diet, eliminate dangerous interactions, and in many cases, actually reduce their medication dosages under their doctor's supervision, because their medications suddenly start working properly again. This protocol doesn't require expensive supplements or difficult lifestyle changes. It can be done entirely at home, costs almost nothing to implement, and most patients begin seeing improvements in their medication effectiveness and side effects within just 7 days. Before I share these steps with you, you should know that this information could potentially save your life or the life of someone you love. If you're taking medications and consuming grapefruit in any form, the changes in your body could be happening right now, without your knowledge. So let me walk you through exactly what you need to do, step by step. Step 1. Complete grapefruit. Elimination. The first and most critical step is to completely eliminate all forms of grapefruit from your diet. This includes fresh grapefruit, grapefruit juice, even as a small ingredient in other juices, grapefruit extracts in supplements, and even marmalades or desserts containing grapefruit. Many seniors don't realize that even a small amount can trigger the enzyme destruction process. The effect isn't like an allergy that happens immediately. Once you consume grapefruit, the enzyme in your intestines remains suppressed for up to 72 hours. Here's an elderly-friendly hack I recommend to my patients. Put a bright yellow sticky note on your refrigerator that simply says "No grapefruit" as a daily reminder. If you have memory concerns, this visual cue can be tremendously helpful. Also, ask a family member to help you check ingredient labels on juices and prepared foods, as many citrus blends contain grapefruit without prominently advertising it. Step 2. Create a medication diet journal. The second step is to track how you feel as the grapefruit leaves your system. Get a simple notebook and create 3 columns: date, medications taken, and how I feel. Every day for the first 2 weeks, record any changes in how your medications seem to be affecting you. Are you less drowsy? Is your pain management improving? Is your blood pressure more stable? This journal serves 2 critical purposes. It helps you see improvements that happen gradually and might otherwise go unnoticed, and it creates a valuable record to share with your doctor. A special elderly hack here. If writing is difficult due to arthritis or tremors, use a voice recorder on a smartphone or ask a family member to help you record this information. Some of my patients use a simple color system: green sticker for good days, yellow for moderate, red for bad, to track their progress visually. Step 3. Identify other citrus interactions. While grapefruit is the most potent culprit, other citrus fruits can have similar effects, though usually much milder. Seville oranges, often used in marmalades, tangelos, pomelos, and to a lesser extent, regular oranges and limes can affect the same enzyme system. In the 3rd week, pay attention to how other citrus fruits affect you. Here's a helpful approach. Reintroduce one type of citrus at a time in small amounts while continuing your journal. Wait 3 days between trying different citrus fruits to clearly identify any effects. Many of my patients discover they can enjoy oranges or tangerines with no issues, while others need to be cautious with all citrus. Step 4. Medication timing. Optimization. Now that you've eliminated the primary interference, it's time to optimize. When you take your medications, many drugs are better absorbed with food, while others should be taken on an empty stomach. Some medications interact with calcium in dairy or with high-fat meals. Review each of your prescriptions and create a personalized timing chart. A simple system I recommend to my elderly patients is the clock face method. Draw a clock face on a piece of paper and mark when each medication should be taken, whether with food or without, and any foods to avoid at that time. This visual representation is much easier to follow than a written list. Step 5. Doctor consultation and potential adjustment. The final step is critically important. With your journal in hand, schedule an appointment with your doctor specifically to discuss how eliminating grapefruit has affected your medication response. In many cases, your doctor may need to adjust your dosages downward now that your body is processing the medication properly. Never adjust dosages on your own, but do advocate for yourself with the evidence you've gathered. A helpful approach for this sometimes intimidating conversation. Write down your key points before the appointment, or bring a trusted family member to help explain the changes you've noticed. I always tell my patients to begin with the phrase, "I've noticed something important about my medications that I'd like to share with you." Now let me tell you about some of the remarkable transformations I've witnessed in my patients after implementing this protocol. Margaret Wilson, 83, had been taking blood pressure medication for decades. Over time, her doctor kept increasing the dosage because it didn't seem to be working effectively. After 3 falls in 6 months, her family was considering a care facility. When Margaret came to me, one of my first questions was about her diet. She mentioned having grapefruit juice every morning, something she'd done for 40 years because she heard it was healthy. Within 2 weeks of eliminating grapefruit juice, her blood pressure stabilized. Her dizziness disappeared completely. 6 months later, her doctor had reduced her medication by 30%, and Margaret is now living independently and even driving again. She told me, "My grandchildren say they have their real grandma back." I didn't realize how foggy and unsteady I'd become until that cloud lifted. Then there's Thomas Johnston, 79, who had been experiencing increasing pain despite being on a strong dose of statin medication for his cholesterol. The muscle pain had become so severe that he'd given up his beloved woodworking hobby and could barely walk to the mailbox. His doctor had suggested the pain was just normal aging. When Thomas mentioned he'd recently started eating half a grapefruit with breakfast, following his wife's health kick, I immediately suspected an interaction. 3 days after eliminating grapefruit, his pain began to subside. Within 2 weeks, he was back in his workshop. "I thought my wood-carving days were over," he told me, his voice breaking. "Last week, I finished a rocking horse for my newest great-grandson. I get to be the grandpa I want to be again." Perhaps the most moving story is Elaine Carter, 91. Elaine had been diagnosed with early dementia based on her increasing confusion, memory problems, and lethargy. Her children had already toured memory care facilities when her granddaughter, a nursing student, heard me speak about grapefruit interactions. It turned out Elaine had been drinking grapefruit juice with her anxiety medication for years. After eliminating the juice, the transformation was nothing short of remarkable. Her dementia symptoms reduced dramatically within days. 3 months. Later, her doctor officially reversed the dementia diagnosis. Elaine called me in tears. They were going to take away my home, my independence, my dignity, all because of a fruit I thought was keeping me healthy. Now I'm planning my trip to see the grandchildren in California by myself. At 91, these stories aren't unusual. I've seen this transformation hundreds of times over my decades of practice. The human cost of this simple misunderstanding about grapefruit is immeasurable. Falls, loss of independence, unnecessary pain, family worry, and in some cases, even premature death from medication toxicity. I want you to understand something important. It's never too late to make this change. Whether you've been consuming grapefruit for decades or just started recently, your body will begin to respond within days of eliminating this interaction. The enzyme system in your intestines begins to regenerate immediately, and most people notice subtle improvements within the first week. I'm not telling you this to frighten you, but to empower you. This one simple change could transform your health, your medication effectiveness, and ultimately your independence and quality of life. And isn't that what we all want in our golden years? Not just to be alive, but to truly live, to have the energy and clarity to enjoy our families, pursue our interests, and maintain our dignity and independence. Try this protocol for just 7 days. That's all I ask. Keep that simple journal, eliminate the grapefruit, and notice how you feel. Your family might comment on the change before you even notice it yourself. Your balance might improve. Your thinking might become clearer. Your medications might suddenly work the way they're supposed to. You've spent decades taking care of others, raising children, building careers, contributing to your communities. Now it's time to take this small step to care for yourself You deserve to feel your best no matter your age, and sometimes the most powerful changes come from the simplest adjustments. If this information has helped you, please consider sharing it with other seniors in your life. Like, subscribe and share this video with someone who might benefit from it. Together, we can spread this vital information and help each other live our best lives at every age. Remember, you are not merely getting older, you are becoming more of who you've always been, and that person deserves to thrive, not just survive. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Until next time, this is Dr. Harold Winters, wishing you health, clarity, and joy in your golden years.